Yo, 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 hello, hello, hello. Check this out. NASA socks, NASA earring. Huh? Nerd! Nerd alert! I'm a nerd. Good. Hello, welcome back. So, in this short video, yeah, right, we both know there's not going to be anything short about this video. Maybe. Who knows? It's already too long. Okay. In this video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about the reaction, the way I reacted when I got my autism diagnosis. And in keeping with the theme of this channel, I'm going to approach this by saying that it was interesting. The channel, of course, is called Autism is Interesting. By the way, the reason why I did that, there's always a reason, isn't there? The reason why I did that is there's a lot of channels about autism advocacy, and that's great. That's wonderful. But the thing is, I'm just not that good a person. And I don't mean I'm a bad person, but I'm not that great a person either. So my goal is not to advocate and fight for fellow autistic people. How wonderful that other people do that. My thing is that maybe if people get interested in something, then they're more open towards it. That's my idea. So maybe in a way I am trying to do good through my own subtle approach. Yeah, there you go. I've justified it. I feel better with myself now. Okay. Where am I going with this? Yes. Nerd, one. Second, today we're going to talk about my interesting mixed reaction to learning that I was autistic. And that's what makes it interesting. The fact that it was a mixed reaction. We often think about reactions, the way people react to events. We often think about that, or maybe I think about that from, from a single emotion perspective. Like, I was sad, or I was happy, or I was relieved. And what was interesting in my case, and I assume in many other cases, and if you're headed yourself for an assessment, and if you do get the news that you do meet the criteria for ASD, you might have a similar kind of interesting mixed response. What was interesting for me is that it was mixed. There were positive, there were negatives, there were things that were not emotions but rather thoughts. There were behavioral consequences, literally, like my behavior that was impacted by it, and so on. So here's a little list of how it went down. So first of all, and by the way, if you want to learn about the process by which I came to be diagnosed, you can check out one of my other videos on there, on that topic. So the first thing I felt, in a sense, and these are not, Jesus, am I just gonna get to it? There's always an extra thing where I have to, anyways, these are not, what I want to say, these are not chronologically in order. I didn't go through, I'm not talking about steps like I went from this to that to this to that. I'm not, it's much more chaotic and jumbled up than that. All right, here we go. The first one, not in terms of order, okay? Just the first one I thought of. Relief. So there was a lot of relief. The relief came from the fact that there was an explanation. There was a grand narrative. There was a cohesive structure to my life and all these little tidbits of my life that I couldn't reconcile with what I knew of other people in general, and so on. Sometimes I was super on, sometimes I was super out of it, and so there was a lot of relief because it was an explanation. Okay, so that happened from the very beginning, and that was quite interesting. um, this relief brought about a lot of reminiscence in the field of in psychology. When we say reminiscence, we mean the fact of like going back through your memory stores and thinking about your life and thinking about different parts of your life over and over again. And there was a lot of that because all of a sudden, it's like all these little memories that I had, but I had forgotten I had about things I used to do. All of a sudden they popped out. They popped back up. And I thought, oh, I remember I used to do this when I was a kid. Well, obviously I used to do that. That was autistic. And how about, oh, I just remembered I used to do that too. That was like all this stuff that before was just kind of part of these jumbled memory stores of just odd, random behaviors that I used to have. All of a sudden they just came up and said, well, this, that, and with my wife too. We talked about stuff that I used to do when we started our relationship, and definitely should make a video about that because there's a lot there, a lot of embarrassing stuff from me. Yeah, all of it came up. So a lot of reminiscence, thinking about the past, reinterpreting events. And so on, brought about by this explanation, which itself was kind of enveloped within a feeling of relief. I also, okay, I think a lot of people get this. I think some people might not, but I think a lot of people will. There was a lot of, there was a big, right away, a sense of belonging that I hadn't had before. Feels weird to say it, but when they told me it was ASD, one of my first reactions was cool. And the reason for that is that I've always felt very, very, let's say in movies or in TV shows, and when you have a character that's clearly like Aspergers or we're talking here about it. We're talking here, yes, of course, about stereotype representations, for sure, obviously, right? But whenever you had a character like that, I would always, that had the quirks and things had to be a certain way, and he was a difficult character, but at the same time, he had abilities and so on. I always very much kind of associated with that, and I always found those characters really, really cool. And when I heard about people like that in real life, I always thought, oh man, these people are cool. Like these odd, like super hyperfixated people that have difficulties and things that and I guess maybe I thought it was cool because I didn't see their difficulties as important. Because, if they have social difficulties, it makes sense because I am autistic. Part of me doesn't care that much about the fact of having social difficulties because, it's just somehow less important. So I kind of looked at these people and these characters and go, yeah, he's got social difficulties, but how cool is he or how cool is she, And so it was really interesting to think, really, I get to be part of this category of people? That's cool. That's cool. I have that reaction. It's an interesting reaction. I guess you might not expect that kind of reaction. So relief, a sense of belonging. It also, one of the ways so for now, notice it's all positive. I'm going to get to the negative later. I also had an incredible motivation that arose right away, that popped out, where I formed a new special interest, which, just guess what it was. You know darn well what it was. It was autism. I formed a new special interest called autism. I started consuming all sorts of YouTube videos on autism, reading all sorts of stuff. All of a sudden, it was autism this, autism that, autism this, autism that. A new special interest form, which was autism. So that was part of the response. It's not like I got my diagnosis and went, oh, okay, back to work now, and I'm not going to think about this anymore. No way. It just, autism became my life. I I, you know, you get it, of course. And this is where this is why before I said that there was a behavioral aspect to this, to my reaction, and the behavioral aspect is that for about 2 weeks, I basically, now don't tell my employer this, but for about 2 weeks, I basically stopped working. And for about 2 weeks, I was just waffling around the internet, going down rabbit holes on ASD, autism, Aspergers, watching as many videos as I could, reading as much stuff as I could, and so on. And so it really impacted me. Like I couldn't work. I couldn't do my regular work. It had a behavioral impact on me. And gradually that I came back. But really, there was a rabbit hole there, and I just had to go into it, And so there was that. A lot of relief, a lot of feeling a sense of belonging, a lot of triggering of a new special interest, a lot of reminiscence, a change in my behavior for at least 2 weeks where I really wasn't doing the things that I should have been doing, and I just was going down that rabbit hole. Okay, all of this is kind of positive. Even the special interest in the going down the rabbit hole, even though I didn't get to do my work a lot for those 2 weeks, you know, it was still a very kind of nourishing, cognitively nourishing thing to go down that rabbit hole. Here's the negative part, though. And again, this is not chronologically, but interspersed, I guess I can say that, within all of that reaction that I'm mentioning, were bits of worry. Worry about what? Worry that it wasn't absolutely true. I already talked in a previous video about how I need to be certain of things, and I realize that that's a totally autistic thing. But it gets to me, right? So the idea that it might not be true, that what if they were wrong? Well, what if they were wrong? Well, what if they were wrong? Because, when you're 43 and you didn't know you were autistic, you've got years of experiences that lead you to. Actually, let me say it this way. I had a friend tell me, I have to be careful about labels, and I'm not sure if I'd want a label, if I'd want to know if I was autistic, because I don't want necessarily a label. And I told that friend, you know what? It's either going to be a professional that gives you a label, or it's going to be yourself. And I had plenty of labels for myself. Lazy, irritating, easily irritated, possibly aggressive, weird, all that. I had already all those labels. Forget about, oh, I'm getting a label from this psychology. I have a label now. If you're 43 and you went through life being an Asperger's person, an autistic person, and you don't have labels, that's weird. You've already labeled yourself plenty of times. You know all your problems, or if you don't, good for you. But I already had labels for myself. Lazy, difficult, why am I like this? Why am I like that? And so here was this new label, low support needs, autism spectrum disorder. And that takes care of all the other labels. It subsumes them. It's overarching. It explains all of them. So you don't need all of these others: lazy, difficult, works too much, says uncaring things to the people they love. You don't need all of that. You don't need all of that. You just have ASD. And the reason why that was scary to me, and worrisome, is that I was thinking, what if it's not true? What if they were wrong? What if they made a mistake? Surely people make mistakes. What if they were wrong? Well, the reason why that's scary is that if they're wrong, I would lose this thing saying, you know what, you're not a bad person. And I would go back to those labels that I had for myself about why you like this, why you like that, why you like this, why are you like that. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to I don't want to believe something that will end up being not true in the end. If I'm a bad, difficult person just because I'm a bad, difficult person, or I don't put in any effort socially, I don't want to live under this fantasy that it's because I'm autistic. That would hurt too much to learn one day that it wasn't true at all, and I was always just a difficult person because I don't try enough. Let's say, and so it's almost like I got this neat, beautiful thing, and I was afraid of what if I lose it one day and I get back to what it used to be before. I'd rather maybe not have that beautiful thing, not have that ASD label, and just confront the fact right away that I'm a bad person in some ways. Geez, this sounds complicated. I'm sorry if it is. It might not be, but the idea was that you get an explanation, and that explanation basically says, it's not that you're not trying enough and that you're a bad person. There are reasons for what you do. It's not a moral failure on your part, and the reaction is that you go, oh, geez, but what if it is? I wouldn't want to believe that and be wrong, and then it was a moral failure, and geez, So there was that need for certainty. I'm getting better with that, I think, on that specific thing. Maybe not for other things, but I'm getting better with it. There was a lot of guilt too. There's still guilt. Guilt, and I've talked a little bit about this in another video. Guilt about the fact that I'm a relatively successful guy. I have a good job. I have a loving family. I have a house. I have a car. I live in this beautiful city, and I automatically, my mind would go, when I would think autism, my mind would go to, these parents that are struggling with these children that are wonderful children that deserve to, that deserve to be the way they are, but there's a lot of difficulty with these children, and, a lot of social difficulties, a lot of communication difficulties. There's often intellectual disabilities that come with that, a lot of, and so on. And I thought, geez, I feel guilty about taking that label away from them. I feel guilty about saying, oh yeah, me too, I'm autistic. No, come on, man. I sound like Joe Biden. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, I felt guilt about that. I felt guilty about that. And I realized that it has nothing to do with me, and I'm not, but I'm not. It's not like I did something bad, but still, you kind of feel bad for these. Like, I don't think I would go to a parent that has I know. Okay, I'll say the expression, a severely autistic child. I know there's pushback on YouTube about that, and fair enough about how, severely autistic versus mildly autistic doesn't make any sense. I get that. But I think you all know what I mean, right? A really difficult case in terms of care, in terms of support. Somebody with a lot of, maybe I should say it that way. I would feel bad about going to a parent who has a child with a lot of support needs, like a lot, like they couldn't live by themselves, even if they were an adult. And to go, oh yeah, your child's autistic? Oh, I'm autistic too. I'd be like, oh geez, you're really really, like it. And still today, it feels a little bad. I'm trying to find my way out of it, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and so that's it, and just a lot of interest also was part of my reaction. So there was a lot of relief, a lot of saying, really, that's cool. I get to be one of these people. Like I don't have, I can actually be like these people. There was an automatically a special interest that popped out and that started that hasn't stopped since. There was a lot of reminiscence and interpreting of past events, talking about it to parents, to my wife, even with my children. Going to my son, for example, and going, "Hey, buddy, you remember when I did that 5 years ago? How Daddy behaved weirdly, and he got really aggressive at this point, and he really, like there was a lot of that." Um, then that was all good, but there was also a lot of worry about it. About how can I be sure that I'm not just a bad person? In a sense, I'm not saying I'm a bad but I think you get it. How can I be sure that it's not just me being lazy or bad or difficult? How can I be absolutely sure of that? There was a lot of worry that I couldn't be sure of that. Some disbelief about it. Um, there was a lot of guilt about I'm taking away an important label to explain, people who have a lot of difficulties in life, and it's like I'm co-opting that in a way. I still feel weird about that one. And that's about it. So you can see right here, it's really interesting. A really mixed reaction, right? A mixed reaction. And I wonder if you have ASD yourself, did you have such a mixed reaction? Um, are you ambivalent about possibly finding out that you might be ASD? Do you anticipate such a mixed reaction? So, comments down below if you are interested, if you want to say anything, or even if you want to trash my video. It was too long! It was too long! You need to edit! You need to edit! Too many tangents! Too many just... Plus the NASA socks. Nerd! Alright. Yeah, so subscribe if you haven't, or don't. Really, do what you want to do. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao!